Welcome to Reality After Show, covering Survivor 45, episode 10. Dan, it's just you and me tonight. It's a guy's day, you
Oh,
know?
we're just
Guys'
just
night
having a
out.
boys' night at the beach. Let's go.
Boys' night at the beach. Let's start flexing and farting and apparently doing house chores. That's a boys' night out if I ever heard of one.
Just carrying around bamboo because we're men and we can, damn it.
You know, these people obviously don't know what a true boys' night out is because they haven't spent a guy's night out with Jonny Fairplay, as many people are doing right now at his watch parties, which you can attend as he's going to be doing them for pretty much the rest of the season for Survivor, as well as House of Villains that you can find at survivortix.com or villaintix.com. That's tix.com at the end. Go pay for VIP. It gets you the most one-on-one time with all the other reality stars as well as Johnny. They're great events. Just getting that plug out of the way to start the podcast.
There we go. Now we don't have to worry about it. So interesting episode.
Yeah, so I was talking with some people about it, and I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted about what happens in this episode.
I want to hear what you're conflicted. I have a theory, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
So the move itself tonight, like the execution of the move, what you wanted to have happen, especially from Emily's point of view, works, went off without a hitch. It was a great move, like isolated from everything else that's going on in the season. But I feel like we're getting all these moves, we're getting all this momentum about picking the bottom feeders out. And it's just like, we're trying to just see, does Emily win this game or does Dee win this game? It's like how I'm viewing the board. And I don't know. It's like you chopped off someone from Bruce who proves at the end that he was willing to do what you wanted to do for the sake of other people's games as well as his own. Like he was playing selfishly, but he was doing something to try to break apart Reba. And ultimately, everyone else still goes, no, but we want Bruce out.
I will say Bruce going out with an idol in his pocket is the perfect end to a story. But
For sure.
I get where you're coming from there, because if Jake clearly has no idea what's going on in this game, which has been that way for pretty much since the merge. But if you're Katora and you're Emily here, I just don't see what the grand picture was, because at this point you're pretty much guaranteeing that Ariba's going to win unless they self-sabotage, which we see the previews. Maybe it actually happens. Maybe it's misleading. Who really knows? We'll have to wait till next week to see how that works out. But I think banking on, well, they'll eventually turn on each other when they haven't all game. I think that's a really tough way to, kind of ride this game out. My theory on it, and I'm interested what you think about it, is watching tonight's episode is I think one of the things that makes this season interesting, but also maybe not stand out over the top, I think there's a bunch of good players out there. I don't think there is a great Survivor player in the bunch that's out there. I think all of them are good, but they're not great.
That's fair. And you're not always going to get great and legend players. But like you have a lot of people who know the game and like what like strategically makes sense. And it's like for the Reba 4, you can't blame them for doing what they've been doing, because this is how the modern age of Survivor works. If you have a foursome that is tight and willing to go to 4, you go to 4, because then you never have to put any of your names down, and you get the 4 and you let fire making decide. And you can't really have any hard feelings at that point. Like that, this is how the game has been constructed now, especially in small tribe settings, having a 4-person group from the beginning that can make the merge and maneuver. Why other people don't try to constantly break it apart, I can't tell you. With these people, but we can sort of describe why in this episode in particular. So we'll start from the top. So they come back from tribal council. they're sort of joking around about how Kendra had no idea, and Jake is just like thanking everyone for not putting his name down, but he feels like he's been a dead dog in these last 2 votes. But suddenly he feels that he has friends now and thinks he has returned to being a player in this game instead of a pawn. But as we see from Drew's like, no, he's literally still a pawn. Like, his game is drawing dead. He has no hope. He is just this person that exists in the game.
Of course, because you see it at any time, and it's especially against Drew later in the episode, not to jump ahead, but anytime that he wants to have some type of agency in this game, he's kind of just smacked back down, being like, Jake, that's not your role. Your role is to be this pawn and to be this decoy while we do everything else. I know you came out here to play Survivor, but at this point, you're just at everyone else's mercy. And he's still around. Who knows? Maybe he keeps making it deeper in this game. But at this, I mean, there is no shot that he wins. There's no shot that he really makes this big move. I think as he's around as long as everyone else allows him to be around.
Right. And man, I want to root for Jake.
Agreed.
And you're starting to see, whether it's because of sympathy and pity or not, the jury is like turning for Jake as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so hard to like justify, like, if Jake wins the game at the moment with only what we've seen so far. Like, you can't really justify Jake being the winner of Survivor 45. Because what does he have to claim other than other people decided that other people were bigger targets than him?
Yeah, it's just, I don't see any scenario where he gets to be able to dictate the vote and say, this is who's going out tonight and this is my move. He's just always going to have to be, where can I get or where can I fit in so that I don't go home tonight?
Yeah. But on the other hand, now you also have Bruce. And everyone's still complaining, mainly through Drew's perspective of, Bruce still has all this power because he has an idol. But he keeps winning challenges, which makes that idol more powerful. So we need him to not win immunity so that we can finally flush this idol or somehow blindside him and send him home. And we need it to happen ASAP. And look, it happens this episode. Congrats. It's now the next morning. And this part is where I'm starting to find some interesting stuff, because I'm seeing through the eyes of Julie and Emily in this game why someone can win this game versus why someone is destined to lose this game. And Julie's having a hard time sleeping, and part of it is guilt, and mainly because her feelings are hurt because Kelly and Kendra didn't look at her after they got voted out. And she feels that they're especially burned by her specifically because her role in the four is to have everyone feeling good with her. And probably selfishly with her, she felt that if everyone feels great about her, that even if she blindsides them, they'll still feel great about her. But we'll get to it later on with how Emily approaches Jake. And I'm like, this is where how Emily gets to play the game allows her to have a better chance at the end if she gets there, versus Julie, who unfortunately falls into that mama archetype of great throughout the game until people are voted out. As soon as people are voted out, they feel burned because you have the attachment of having your survivor mother betraying you.
So I'm willing to agree that maybe the Kendra was a little bit of that one may have hurt Kendra more. But are we sure? Like, did she burn Kelly? Like, it's because
the girls thing.
They had the girls thing, but you saw that Kelly was way more upset at Austin and Emily from what we saw at Tribal Council. And sure, some of them may be upset, like, oh, I can't believe Mama did that to me. But they'd only been with Mama J for a few days. So to me, this seemed a lot more of, in your head, you're the main character of the story, which is what Julie thinks in her head, thinking, oh, it's me. This season is about me. How they won't look at me. How will they ever forgive me? And it's really like, Julie, I don't think that's where your biggest issue is here, but hey, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I also feel like you sort of need to have the main character syndrome if you go on Survivor or any reality show. Like we covered the challenge, everyone's the main character in their head. But with Julie, like you could sort of get it because like I understand your point about Kelly, but maybe like in her mind she's like, yeah, she reacted negatively to Austin and Emily, but like she acknowledged them. She didn't acknowledge Julie. I don't know. But she's in her head about it, and maybe part of what's in her head, maybe she is recalling, like, she is a Survivor fan. She understands what the title of Mama does to people who get to the end. They don't win.
Which I would like to point out that, so when I was at one of Jonny Fairplay's viewing parties, Janet Carbon, very upset that she's going by Mama J. So maybe future captain seasons. I hope not, but just look out for it.
Why is that? Why is she upset about it?
Well, so because she was just like, people referred to her as Mama as much as Janet said, no, I don't want that role. And then when you go Mama J, you could think, okay, Janet, Julie right there. She just wasn't a huge fan of it.
Okay.
And of course, Mama C was there as well. And Mama C just wants to be the only Mama that's well known in Survivor. So they may have been, amping each other up.
Okay. But yeah, so like that's where she is. And like Reba Ford's sort of like talking. They're like, they're in good. Like and she's sort of saying like how am I supposed to turn on them? Like I'm feeling bad about turning on Kelly and Kendra, who I'm not aligned with at all.
And I've known for 6 days.
Which makes me just go like, oh, she says she's going rogue. She said last week, like, who's gonna get their way, me or D? You're not going rogue.
No.
Don't Survivor. Don't BS me here. Don't BS me. The whole preview was, oh, we're splitting up. Okay. Anyway, we have Bella and Emily talking about the Reba 4 now. Because suddenly at Final 8, they're now discovering that there's this solid 4 that's in the game. And Emily suddenly dawns on her, like, I'm not sure if Drew and Austin will actually pick me. Which we don't know. We can't see everything. Like, she has to believe what she can believe, because that's been her game this entire season. Is ever since the first vote, she's been gripping to life in this game. And trying to find whatever lifeline she can, and then like put her all into that lifeline, because that's the position that she was put in. You can't fault her for doing that, but like she can see that, okay, they're not really biting whenever we talk about, but when do we split from D? When do we do this? And every single time Drew and Austin sort of push her down. Like, no, that's not a now problem. That's a future problem. Bruce is idle, or Jake. Like, so at a certain point, like, what's going to give? And Emily's like, even if I wanted to go against them, Katurah, Jake, and Bruce don't see it eye to eye. Like, none of them are working together. And even if we could rally the troops, how can I actually put 100% faith that they will actually stick to the plan? How can I put faith that Bruce could use an idol strategically outside of just saving himself? And like, this is where like the more of those complications of like, well, what happened tonight? Like, the execution of the plan works, but it's only working because you have all these other factors of like, when you could have taken someone out of the 4, there's all these other reasons why you just can't trust that it would actually work.
Yeah, and you see it, right here, and then as the episode goes on, that Katurah and Bruce, they haven't been able to get on the same page this entire season. Definitely isn't going to happen at this point. And you see Jake starts to splinter off from Bruce because, all right, Bruce is lying, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. But Bruce just seems like someone that is so impossibly hard to work with, because he seems like, hey, I have this plan. This is what I want to do. And when someone comes back and says, oh, hey, Bruce, did you think about this? Or what about this? And Bruce is like, no, I already thought it all out. This is the way. And he just seems like someone that would be incredibly frustrating to work with because he has no fluidity. He's a one-trick pony. There is no bag of tricks in, Bruce's bag is I have one idol, one note, and that's the only way I know how to do this.
Well, I would agree with you up until this episode. I think this
That's
episode
fair.
showed, while Bruce was doing it for selfish reasons, he was showing that he was willing to realign with people that he's been butting heads with all season long on like the, quote unquote personal level, like personal on the island level, or just game wise throughout the game with Katurah and Jake and Emily, and being like, okay, yeah, we do need to. I am going to believe you, Emily. I am going to believe you that Mama J is just using me and trying to be nice to me. So I give her my vote. I'm willing to turn and vote that instead of just doing what he's been doing all season of, well, I'm safe, so I'm just going to roll with the majority.
But I'll agree with you there that you do see that he's willing to change it up. But it's also because he's kind of easy to be manipulated. Because when you've heard him talk earlier in this episode about he's tight with Mama J, like, okay, they have this relationship. And then as soon as Emily drops, hey, she's just kind of working you for a jury vote, he immediately goes, oh, you think I care two shits about and it's just all kind of deflect.
Yeah. But speaking on Bruce, this is where Bruce starts trying to play strategically. So he goes to Katurah. It's like, like burying the hatchet, and then goes, oh, by the way, everyone keeps targeting me about the idol, but I've been so afraid of acknowledge's power. I gave my idol to Kelly the round that she went out. Like, I don't have anything. And Katurah at first is buying it. She's like, what? Excuse me? Like, are you like dead ass? And then Bruce goes, just kidding. Did you believe me though?
It was so interesting that he chose Katurah to do this with. You'd think that, hey, they never have been on the same page. And while sure, maybe things with Jake haven't been the greatest, that would be the person to test that out with, not Katurah. But Bruce is gonna Bruce.
Yeah, but she like does tell him like, no, that plan's not going to work. Like, everyone's just so damn confident you have the idol. It doesn't matter what you say. People are going to believe it. He's like, okay, I hear you. I'm going to run this to Jake. And then he tells Jake because he knows Jake is just going to tell Reba. And then he's like, okay, let's see if this works. Let's see. Because then I'll just play my idol. Something else can happen. I don't know what's going to happen yet, but I'll be safe.
What was the point of telling Katurah? Was it because he needed to tell someone? Because had he just left out step one and step two was the entire plan, it could have worked. Because Jake does exactly what Bruce wants him to do. And Austin and Drew seem to believe it until it can be, they can talk with Emily and it gets shot down. So if Bruce just cuts out step one, this actually could have worked, unless it was just editing and no one actually ever believed it. But that's what we're led to believe.
Right. But that's the last thing we see before the reward challenge on day 18. They have a reward challenge where you race across obstacles, collect the ball, crawl under, and then maneuver the ball maze. And the reward is the sanctuary that we need to die a non-glorious death.
It does not deserve a Viking funeral. It just needs to be utterly destroyed.
Yeah. Honestly, like, Bryce Isaiah put it on Twitter, and like, we can't do what he's like saying because there's just, you don't have that feel for it that you did in the old day of Survivor, of like going to the communities, the helicopter ride, like stuff like that. But you could do something. You can do, like, I loved the rewards where you are eating in front of the other people. and like you're just like
Yeah.
10 feet away from them, gorging yourself, like making them watch you eat all that, making them watch you get to sleep in the comfy bed, like just 20 yards away. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's like,
You could easily do something like that. I agree. That always adds some resentment from, the have-nots, the people that didn't get it. But also, there's more than those 3 islands in Fiji. Like, they can go somewhere else to have a meal. It does not need to be at the sanctuary. I'm sure there's still some place where you could get a village type atmosphere and have some type of, I don't know what the Fijian word for it would be, but like a Hawaiian luau, like their version of it. It's got to be there somewhere.
there's other stuff you can do. Ultimately is what I'm saying, and I need to stop hearing every single episode. The reward is the sanctuary where good things happen. And this was obviously an episode that we expected to air before Thanksgiving because the reward is turkey, mashed potatoes and gravy, apple pie, beer, juice, and that's not all. You are gonna spend the night with pillows and blanket singular.
I get that, hey, Survivor has found a way to streamline it. They go back to Fiji every time. They can use pretty much the same things over and over again. Just because you can doesn't mean that you shouldn't use an extra, I don't know, $2,000 on a budget somewhere else. You can fucking do it, Probst and CBS. We know you have the money. Fiji's cutting you a hell of a tax break.
Yeah. Emily wins.
So you say she went over something, under something, and then won a puzzle?
She did go over 2 things, under 3 things if you include the net as going under. And won a ball maze. It wasn't a puzzle, mental, but still physical component.
Yeah, that's about all I had. Emily wins. Good for her. She wanted to win herself to the sanctuary. So after
I
her
would
long
love to win
season, she
myself
deserves
to
it.
immunity.
Wow, let's not get greedy here.
I don't know. Thanksgiving, I like some of my stuff for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving dinner is overrated. I'm saying it. I'm saying it here right now. But it's like, this isn't the reward I would want, to be honest. The night home with like sleeping on a bed pillow and stuff like that. Love that. Letter from home, I'll take it. I'm sort of the person, especially in this like shorter time frame of the game. I know you have your like sequester period and all that. Like it would mean something to me. I don't think I'd be like breaking down the way that others do, but I also haven't been starving myself and playing a mind-numbing game of betrayal for multiple weeks. So who am I to say? But that's the reward. You get to have letters from home as well, and Emily gets to pick 3 people. She ends up making it a ladies' night. She chooses Julie and Katura and Dee. Katura wanted to be very clear that she did not expect to be a person picked.
She did not expect to be picked. And just before we go on too far, I just want it on the record. I do not agree with your point that Thanksgiving is overrated.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Just had to be said. But no, Katura did not expect to get picked. And then this is where this starts the Katura episode where I get what they're trying to do. We had about 2 moments too much from Katura in this episode. We're laying it on thick with all the crying and all the stories here, which I get. You want to make Katura more known because maybe she hasn't gotten the greatest storyline, and you want to get some of her, heartwarming stories that she has. Forcing 3 down our throats inside of 30 minutes is not the way to do that. It just becomes overkill.
I feel bad for Katura because
agreed. This isn't a shot at Katura whatsoever.
Her edit has, and like she's getting, I feel like, an obscene amount of hate just because the edit that Survivor is choosing is that she's just only about taking out Bruce. Like, she understands other things are going on. They had personal beef. She wanted him out. This is the first time truly that she has had an opportunity to vote him out of the game.
She has gotten pigeonholed to all those confessionals, because we even saw Kendra say it on her exit press that she was surprised she wasn't getting a lot of those same confessionals that Katora was got, because she was saying the exact same thing out there. So it's kind of weird that for the first 9 episodes of the season, all that we got was Katora's on screen, let's have her bash on Bruce, and that's about it.
Right. So if you want to dislike Katora Shore, there's no reason to hate her.
No.
I guess unless you're a Bruce stan, which, like, I enjoyed Bruce for what he was for this season. Like, I wasn't rooting for him to win, but he was a good foil for a lot of people because he was playing how he wanted to play. We don't need to spread hate. Hate.
I enjoyed Bruce just because he was pissing everyone off. But no, I agree. And my criticism wasn't at Katora herself.
Yeah,
it was the editing choice of how they chose to, we're going to cram these 3 heartfelt moments all within 3 commercial breaks. It just didn't seem necessary.
Yeah. But so we have ladies' night. They eat. They're talking about how Emily should have more confidence in herself. Like, she underestimates herself. Couture reveals, and then Couture reveals the lie to the other ladies, but like specifically Dee and Julie. And so here's the other crux of the issue here is you have this Reba 4, and you have Emily and Couture, who both of them believe they're number 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and both of them are probably also having that same mindset of, like, well, at some point, like, Couture's probably of the mindset of, like, oh, well, the girls will probably at some point try to get rid of one of Drew and Austin, then you can take out the other, whatever. Emily's of the mindset of, like, I just want to make sure I'm in that 3. Like, I think that's ultimately why she picks all of the ladies. It's like to continue to try to drive home that as an option, and maybe put it into Austin and Drew's head of, like, this could be something if you guys don't start giving me what I want, which is us as the final 3. I have this other option now. So you have all that. You can't really blame Katura for revealing the lie, because ultimately, as she said, it's like, I haven't been working with Bruce all game. I started in the game working with Bruce. Bruce proved to be a bad ally. We don't like each other on the island. There's no reason for me to want to help him. So I'll throw him under the bus. I do not care.
Yeah, it's as much as, it's the right move for her, just because as much as we say you got to take a shot at the Reba 4, if you don't trust the people that you're going to take that shot with, where it comes up later where it's obviously told to Bruce is the decoy of Julie. But if you are going to take that shot at one of those 4, you can't miss. You have to make sure it gets done. And if you have absolutely no trust with 1 or 2 people in that plan, it's going to make it really hard. And plus, at this point, I'm almost convinced that more than Katora wants to win this game is she wants to be the one that wrote Bruce down. Like, I can only imagine when they were talking about the split later on in the episode, she was just like, I don't care how we do it, but I'm writing Bruce.
Well, like, you hear her say it here of, like, oh, yeah, like, obviously we split on Bruce and Jake, but, like, can we put a majority on Bruce in the event that he doesn't play it or decides to think that we wouldn't use it on him and he uses it on Jake? Like, if he's available, can we just put the majority on him? And all the girls are like, yeah, no problem. I'm then gonna go straight to their letters, because, like, there's not a lot to talk about. I do have something here though of, like, well, one, we get the redeeming Emily thing of, like, the boyfriend moving into a home, seeing him as a potential, like, Emily continues to have this idea of, like, she has to be making, she's either goes out at 4 or is in final tribal council. Like that she is too strong in the edit right now for me to think anything other than that for her.
I think she has to be she's either that fourth spot, like what they call it, like the fallen angel or
Yeah.
whatever, or she's the winner.
Yeah.
I think
And
I think
I'll
that's her two
always
destiny.
hold to Premiere. The few things I remember from Premiere. Her quote at the very beginning of the episode is, if I'm not winning this game, I might as well go out first because it'd be a waste of my time.
Yeah, you're right.
Just saying. I'm just saying. And I made a mark of that in episode 1. So when it happens, I'm giving myself my kudos because I know no one else will.
Well, Matt
But
was just in a blind rage, so just forgive
oh
him.
yes, he was. But here's the thing: I have some pause with on production because I feel like they thought this was going to be like a wow moment. Having Katura get the letter from her mother that she like clearly states in here, I have cut communication with. Like I've cut those ties. My life prior to now was not a happy life, and I wanted to separate myself from it. Because I think I was talking with someone about it. Well, as the episode went on, I think this letter impacted what happens later on at the immunity challenge.
It very well could have. If so, under this assumption right here is that CBS production, without Katura's knowledge, reached out to her mother?
I would have to believe so because I think in the process they learn a lot about you, and I feel like she probably clearly articulated her relationship with her family
If they
as
did
part of
that,
her reason for doing this. And they probably thought like this would be an inspiring moment of like her having this realization that, like, despite anything bad that happened in the past, this game has helped me realize the importance of family and those I should be able to truly trust. And when I get out of here, I'm going to be calling my mom and I'm going to mend those fences, whatever. I don't know. But
if that's what they did, then they need to stay in their lane and mind their own damn business.
like, and
Even though it may turn into a good thing, that's not CBS's place to do that if that's in fact what happened.
Because like it would be hard for me to believe that she would list her mom as like a potential person to get a letter from home or like the love from home from, if that's the relationship that she had prior to going on the island.
Mm-hmm. Which it makes sense that could have affected her. Sorry, blanking, but yes, her performance
Her psyche,
in the immunity. Yeah, it could have affected that.
It took her out of the game, like in a negative sense. And like you see that, and I think that's because I thought her confessional was weird there as they went into the break of like, this is like recalling like the sad parts of my life, and this I'm trying to be focused on the game right now, and this doesn't help.
It also puts her in such a hard place because she has one of two options. She can either go the option what she did where she's talking about, oh, like it's nice that her mom still cares and it's nice, but is that how she really feels? But she also has to think she's on TV. So if that's not how she feels, she can't just bash her mom there on TV without airing out a ton of other dirty laundry that shouldn't be on CBS, which I didn't even think of that, but if that, all right, that adds a whole wrinkle to things.
It's the only thing I could think about because like, and obviously I could be wrong. It's my opinion just based off what we saw and what she articulated. And if that was the relationship, I would not have expected that. If I was her, I would not have been expecting a letter from a person that I've like excommunicated from my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like intentionally. They didn't cut me out of their life. I cut them out of mine. You know? I don't know. It just felt off.
Yeah, that's a real murky and sticky situation.
Yeah. It's like what's her name from San Juan del Sur? Misty's daughter.
Oh, Baylor?
Baylor's song. It's a sticky situation.
That is what the name of that song is. Oh, I
And
forgot
there's your callback, everybody.
I forgot she was a person.
Anyway, then we go to the guy side. We joked at the beginning about guys' night and everything, and you know, Drew, of course, has the confession of I never broed out, but let me try to be one of the guys. Whatever. Austin fishes. Austin gets some fish, and then we have a conversation with Jake and Bruce, saying they need to take someone from Reba out, and Bruce is pitching D. Jake is like, no, I ain't about that. That doesn't work for me. Like, I think I have a relationship with Austin and Drew. So this is when Jake then goes to Drew and tells unknowingly Bruce's lie about Kelly going out with his idol. Drew is like giddy as all hell about it, tells it to Austin immediately. They're both giddy as hell. I'm like, oh my God, we can do this. We can get him out. And obviously, everyone comes back. Somewhere within there, the guys find out that that isn't the case. But really, the only person who doesn't know is Jake.
Yeah, I believe we see Emily tell Drew that, because Drew's going to tell Emily, like, oh, I have this news. And Emily tells him, no, that's not what happened. Katora explains the whole story.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I found it in my notes. Yeah, Emily and Drew reconnect about Bruce and his lie and Jake being the backup target. But like, Emily is sort of on the fence about Jake being the backup target. I think she still sees something of value of Jake in the game. And also, this is where we get Emily, counterpoint of Julie. Julie is like, I don't like lying, but I am lying and putting up the facade of I'm your mama. Yeah, you can trust me and all that. Whereas Emily shows trust with people and gets those like brownie points from people because like she's more blunt. She's like, even if she's like beating around the bush about it, like she's a little more straightforward with people. And she goes to Jake because she's like, you know, admit I want to have jury votes at the end. And if everyone else is lying to Jake and I'm the one who's at least telling him a semi-truth, I should have his respect if he goes out and I get his vote over everyone else.
Yeah, she uses I believe the phrase of talking to him like he's a real person because everyone else is talking down to him.
Well, also she did discover earlier in the season that she had to talk to people as people because they're not stocks.
That is true. Full circle.
You know, financial specialist Emily Flippin.
Sure.
Learning to treat people like people. I love that that's still an arc in this season. I love it. But so she tells Jake, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, Bruce has his idol. Or like if Bruce has his idol and he does play it on him, you are
backup.
And he finishes the sentence for it. I'm the backup. And he's pissed. He's pissed that he's now realizing that these people that he thought he got in with, he's not in with. He's still the pawn. He's not the player that he wants to be. And he's sort of pissed. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to throw Drew's out then to Emily. And Emily's like, yeah, but if I were to take Drew out, like, that really negatively impacts my game. And then I'm out. So, and then he goes to Julie. Julie's like, I need to go take a walk. And so he's like, damn, like, everyone's giving me the runaround. No one's playing the game. Which, I understand anyone who's upset of, like, the steamrolling, the Pagani, and people, like, no one's playing the game. They are playing the game. And as Jake says, like, or maybe they just don't want to play with me.
Or what I would love to see at some point is, so if Emily does flip it around and she is like the winner or whatever, it could be genius keeping Jake safe for all this time, because that would be a perfect person for her to carry to the end of the game, because she's the only person that's kind of been real with them other than Drew, but that bridge clearly gets burnt here. So post this episode, the only person that's kind of like treated him with respect and at least talked openly with him. And he's someone who clearly has zero shot at winning the game. So kind of cultivating this somewhat of a relationship for 3 episodes could potentially pay off.
I don't see him as a non-0% chance. Or
He's
see
not
him as a
winning this game.
non-zero. He has the potential to win this game because despite not having the moves, by getting to the end, despite being always the other option, like and he can be well spoken at times, and I think he can pull an emotional heartstring on people that where it's like, say he's at the end with Emily and Drew, but like doing something like that. Drew is like, I don't see Drew getting the votes because we see how Drew talks to people when he's getting confronted, as we see here when he tries to confront Jake and Jake like stands his ground. Like Drew immediately just goes into a "you're playing the mob boss. Why my name?" When there's everyone else like, well, and then like when Jake asks, "Well, why me?" and Drew goes, "Well, because you have nobody. Like you're useless." Like Drew doesn't have like that tact that like he will be able to articulate the strategy of his game, but like we're no longer even truly seeing his strategies. Like we haven't seen his strategies for a while, other than wanting Bruce out. Okay, Bruce is safe. We're steamrolling somebody else. Like that's been his strategies in this game, but like they're not even his moves. They're like who D wanted out, so he can't really even claim those moves.
It's not exactly apples to apples, but you know who he reminds me of a little bit of?
Who?
Hey, Alex, do you want to ride the lightning?
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Someone that just falls ass backwards into close to winning the game. That would be that story.
That would be. I could see him saying that.
That would be phenomenal.
I don't know who he's saying that to in this cast, but who's he riding the lightning with? Austin?
I think Austin's the only person that he could actually say it to that's left on this cast.
Yeah. But you see what I mean? Like you have people like, I think Emily's, as the game has gone on, I think she can talk in a way where like she can be both analytical and pool emotion because of like the experience she has gone through in this game. But like Drew's been in a power position and has been playing very like by the numbers. These are chess pieces, and I don't think this type of jury is going to respect that. Whereas I think they could respect an underdog. Just like a lot of casuals who watch Survivor lean into, like, I had people today coming to me in conversations going like, I can't believe this, but I'm suddenly rooting for Bruce to win. Like, because we're like psychologically like in our brains wanting to root for the underdog because the underdog reflects most people, as opposed to the person who's always has their pulse on the game, always has control. Whereas like I lean back and forth in it. There's seasons where I was a Jesse fan in 43, and Carla, like people that had control for like the entire game until they didn't. But I can root for a good underdog. You know, like Mike Holloway and Worlds Apart. That was a fun journey for a lot of people. Seeing him like being able to fight all odds and get to the end. Like, you know, there's stuff like that that just makes sense. And I think that's his story.
Yeah. No, but you were talking about Drew. I just don't want to see Drew at the end because I don't need to have him talk about Pokemon evolution or whatever other bullshit he'd throw out at Final Tribal Council.
Oh, man.
I did, you know, I came around on Drew for a few episodes where I wasn't a huge fan. Then I was like, all right, maybe there's something there. And over the past few episodes, it's been no. And then especially after his little hissy fit with Jake, it's just like, yep, nope, I was right the first time.
And that's my problem with Drew is like, even in confrontation, like if you want to be like the great, like, you know, analytical robot, like Survivor player, you can't react the way that you just reacted when confronting Jake when Jake confronts you back. Because like you saw like Drew immediately turn off his social game on Jake as soon as Jake was like, "Nah, I think we're done here." Like there was a way to move around that to avoid getting to that spot. Because like Emily being blunt with Jake and where his position is, the conversation kept going.
Mm-hmm.
Drew's version of blunt hits harder. Because like there's one thing about being like you are the backup vote. It's another thing being told like you're the backup vote because you have no numbers and are playing a shitty game. Is essentially what Drew's telling him. And what, even if he's not saying those words, that's how Jake is taking how Drew's approaching him.
It may not have been Drew's exact words, but it was pretty close.
Right. And I do love, like, they're both, like, hitting each other. Drew's like, he's acting like some mob boss just because he's like, this conversation is over. And then you have Jake on, like, Drew is, like, so offended. Like, my name's been out there for rounds. I'd say his name one time he's in this hissy fit. He ain't a gift from God, bro.
It was a pretty good few confessionals there because then you had Drew going like, oh, he's from Boston, talking about The Departed, and just there were a few that were pretty good going back and forth.
Yeah. I do like that part of Drew. Like, I do love confessional Drew where he's like digging that knife in, but like leave that in confessional.
Yeah.
If you want to be a good game player.
Yeah, agreed.
But hey, if you want to be a bad game player and give us some sort of TV by some sort of fight, won't complain.
We'll take
about
it. Yeah.
It's day 19 now. We're going to immunity. We've seen variations of this challenge before. But here is you're lying down on a steep ramp, suspended over water, holding your body weight with handholds. There's going to be like 2 other changeovers during this time where the handholds become smaller. And as we see in the challenge, you can originally use your feet to help leverage yourself. But when you get to the last one, your feet will be outright, which I think was more so Jeff in production going, we'll be here all day if we don't force them to truly only use their arms. Which that's what this challenge is. Like ultimately, when you get to the end, it was who has the strongest triceps and the most durability there. And like, I guess you could say your hand strength too, of like just tolerating the pain of the small handle.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it was truly going to be who had the biggest who had the biggest triceps. So I was like, oh, so Bruce or Austin's winning. Because I was like, if you weren't doing that and you could still hold your feet, initially I was like, oh, this seems like something that Julie will win. Like they sort of make a mark of it earlier in the episode where like Julie keeps coming second in immunity. I'm like, well, she's like, she has some lean muscle in there and she's lighter. She's like, she should be able to hold her body weight easier than the guys will. But nope, it ended up being the 4 guys at the end and then Austin and Bruce at the end. And I almost felt like Bruce chose to give up instead of his body actually giving up. It could be that his body gave up and then he just was like, okay, I'm going to fall, so might as well control my fall down. But I don't know. It was like, I thought Bruce had a little more gas in the tank.
He may have. My favorite part of this entire challenge was at the changeover when they had to, no longer use their feet. And D immediately slid off because it was like, it's the toe. It's the source of all of her power.
It was the toe.
It's the source of all of her power.
She's like, oh, you're not letting me use this? I'm out, guys. No, yeah. And then, but this goes back to what I was saying about Katura, where like the big thing about this segment, which it's just like felt so out of place, even though like it was part of the episode and like what actually happened. But it's like Katura's suddenly having this panic attack where she like says to us like, no, like I was prepared to swim. I'm prepared for water, but for whatever reason, I got to the challenge, and she essentially has a panic attack over the challenge for inexplicable reasons. And I think it's because of whatever was said in that letter, I think impacted her psyche going into this challenge. Whereas like I think if she didn't have that, she wasn't going to win, but I don't think she ever has this moment.
No, that's true. That was something that until you brought it up, I hadn't really thought of, but it does, providing that context, it does make a lot more sense. And because my first thought at the time was just being like, are we really having the Suri on the balance beam moment again? Like we don't need to do that. We just don't.
He wanted it so badly.
He thought it was great. I mean, he also thought it was great that she got voted out with no votes. So
yeah, but let's not trust what Jeff thinks is great. Jeff also said that Emily made the biggest play of the game by picking the 3 women to go to get their love letters and go to the sanctuary with her in the commercial. Like right at that break is like, Emily just made the biggest move of the season. Apply now.
I was just happy that for once, Jeff gave the biggest twist all season and was like, we're going to we're going to a tribal council. One person has immunity and everyone has their vote. I did it again. Honestly, Jeff Probst.
Honestly, I was shocked. I was shocked that everyone had their votes. I don't trust this man. Not this season, especially. But Austin wins immunity. So everyone's getting their wish. Bruce is vulnerable. We are going to burn his idol. We're going to vote Jake out. Is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
But we see Katura's like, I feel like Jake is a wasted vote. And she's talking with Emily and she's like, but do we want to go to the end with someone who goes by Mama? And this is where like I sort of lost the plot with their insight on the game. And part of it is like you only know what you can know when you're in the game and not out of the game. But like especially when you get to tribal council, I feel like you should be pretty clear of like, oh, they ain't vibing with Julie.
Like, yeah, you can see who the jury's cheering for, who's getting the comments, who's getting the glares. You should be able to pick up on all of that.
Like, I feel if I was on the island and you're looking at this for, like, if you were put into the minority position and you're looking at this Reba for, and you're like, who are the threats to win? Who are more beatable? It's like, I'm looking at D as the threat. Like, it feels like D gets her way. D gets protected by these people. Like, especially if I'm Emily and I'm pitching D to Austin and Drew, and they're both like, no, that's a later problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I put D up there.
Agreed.
I then would put, like, Drew and Austin sort of, like, side by side, where, like, I feel like Austin has, he can win some challenges. He's very likable. Like, there's things that, like, his charm could get him farther with votes. Drew, you see him as that sort of like a co-leader to D, like, so maybe there's respect there, but maybe I could pull some votes from there because he's a little blunt and a little cocky. And then you have Julie, and like you could say, okay, Julie seems very likable, but part of me would like to think that I would also think that, well, she's probably burning all these people as well, whereas I'm in the minority. Like I've had to attach to them, but like I'm not pushing these votes. Like they don't have as many reasons to be pissed off at me. So like Julie's the person that I would want to go to the end with.
It makes no sense for everything that you just brought up, and then all these people that are, huge fans of the show. That Mama arc never wins. Like, sure, some of them do well and they get far, but it never wins. I don't get why that would be the person of we need to target someone out of that Reba 4. Let's go get Julie. That's not a big move.
And like, again, that's me saying it from the comfort of my house, fully fed, getting to watch the edit and everything. Like, I understand on the island that you have your own perspective because like you can only have so much information. You don't know everything that's happening.
Don't you dare backtrack. I want you to dig those coals on the file on fire. Yeah, I know, fence rider. I get it. Get it.
Hey! I'll dip my toe in the coals, but I don't have to walk the coals.
Fair enough.
I just have to sense it. I have to get a pulse on it. And
I feel like that's just if I say something that's a little bit towing over, Dan's stupid enough. He'll go the whole way over. And it
see,
works. It works.
Dan, Dan, you're my Jake here.
I don't like this comparison.
You
I
got
would
no
rather go.
numbers. You got
would
no numbers, Dan.
I would rather go with something else. I no longer am having fun.
This is why I love when we podcast together.
Absolutely.
But so Katura has that plan, and then Emily pitches that plan to Bruce. And I'm like, okay, let's see what's happening here. She's gauging Bruce. Bruce seems to be in on it. So I was expecting to get a Bruce confessional, and Bruce going like, yeah, that's all well and good. I'm playing my idol on myself. But no, we get to Emily, and Emily's like, I am praying that Bruce is believing me because I am lying to him. I'm hoping that what I have done in this game that has made people believe that I'm like a woman of my word, that what I say is what I'm intending to do. I hope Bruce buys in, because then we can just vote him out and take his idol away and remove him, because I don't want to take Jake out. And one part of this, Dan, I want to hear your perspective on this, is I think there's a fear of, especially knowing that Bruce has won immunities. And we've seen Mike Holloway. Like there's no guarantees that he will keep losing. There's more, the realistic thing is he is more likely to win immunity than not at this point in time.
Sure.
Like removing the everyone has an equal chance to win bullshit.
No.
So by letting Bruce play an idol successfully on himself for them to then boot Mama J, does that move go to Emily? Or does it go to Bruce, because Bruce is now more likely to keep going to the end, and now you just gave Bruce the resume point because it was his idol, his active move that then sent someone else home. You don't get to have as much the credit unless you can get there and out talk Bruce. And Bruce then can always say, well, that plan doesn't work unless I play my idol.
I think more often than not, it goes to Bruce. The only way that it could go to Emily is, say, Katora, she goes out in the next few votes, she's on the jury, and they had this conversation that she can say, Katora, we talked about this. Was this not? And that way Katora can corroborate it, is the only way. But I'd say more often than not, it would go to Bruce, because it's the splashy play. If he played the idol, they think about it was his idol play, it knocked someone else out. But I guess my other question with this move from Emily here was that, say it didn't work. Say Bruce plays his idol and it goes home. We've already seen what happens with Julie when votes are put against, because it was Jake and Caleb that put on to her, and she was pretty pissed off for a little bit. Well, Bruce is still back in camp. Then Emily has to deal with the fallback of, why'd you put my name down? The plan doesn't go the way that Bruce thought it was. He's singing like a canary.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's also how she probably pitches Katura to be like, Mama J is a future problem.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take out Bruce, and like, here's why. And like, you don't even need that much to get Katura to be on board of taking out Bruce, because like, she just does not have any faith or trust in Bruce. But then by also convincing Katura that this move benefits Bruce more than it benefits us, because it fractures Reba. Reba won't be mad at Bruce. They're going to be mad at us. And so maybe they even align with Bruce because they think they can all beat Bruce at the end, and they take us out instead 1-2. But if we remove Bruce, there's still a little flexibility that in the event Reba splits, we still have ins with them.
Yeah, it just seems so weird, because the only way that this makes sense for Couture or Emily is you're banking on the fact that Reba fractures and splits. Because if it doesn't, all that you're doing is you're making sure that they have no resistance the rest of the way. And I think that's just a pretty tough gamble to make if you're looking at either of them, because Couture is trying to hold on any way she can. As far as we know, they haven't promised her anything. And if you're Emily, you brought it up earlier. Every time she tries to throw under either Julie or more particularly Dee, it gets batted back. So I think that's the tough way to throw all your marbles on that I'm confident that this foursome is going to splinter when there's been no proof up to this point that that's in fact going to happen.
So another point here that I'm just thinking about now, for Emily specifically, in the Kelly vote where it's Kelly and Jake, and obviously this would mean Jake goes home instead, but maybe in a different world, was her allowing Kelly to go and truly fracturing Bello what could potentially cost her the game? Because if you could have taken out a Reba person then, instead of it just being this whole thing of like, oh, well, it's obviously can only be Jake, or, oh, we're now going to boot out Kelly. Is there a world where Reba's no longer as strong because one of them's out? And because we're in this world right now with Bruce out of the game where Emily and Couture's best chance of both making it to Final 3 is if they are at Final 4 with themselves, Jake, and Drew.
Mm-hmm.
But that means some combination of those four are going to have to beat Julie, Dee, and Austin at the next 3 immunity challenges, and Austin not using idols correctly.
Yeah, it's
because I don't think any of them beat Austin, Dee, or Mama J in fire making.
I'd agree with that. I think not only did you could say taking out Kelly potentially will cost Emily, because the other thing about Kelly while she was in the game is Bello's been a hot mess this entire time. Kelly was the only one that could galvanize them all together and get them somewhat on the same page. So had they taken out, I don't know, had it been Kendra or something like that instead, and you left Kelly there, I think if you swap it out and say that, I don't know, I guess you need to have her there and take out a Reba, I think she'd be able to pull in a Bruce, Katora, and Jake together where no one else is able to do that. So as soon as you took her out, Bella was just going to implode. Like they had no shot.
And I said it on an earlier podcast, like that, like I can't be mad at the Reba Forward for being as successful as they are, because there were opportunities for these other people to take them out. Now, granted, the vote that Brando goes out, it was Brando and Kendra on one side, Austin and Drew on another, and then Emily in the middle. Emily doesn't know all the information of Reba and Bello, but she's buying into Austin and Drew at that time. Can't fault her for choosing them over Brando. So Brando goes. But at the final 12, where they split into 2 groups of 6, Kelly, Bruce, I forget
Kendra.
if it was Kendra in that one, and Sifu as a unit should have taken out Drew. There was no reason to play it safe in that round and go, well, we need to placate the other side. They will be mad if we take out Drew, but they won't be mad if we take out Sifu. You should have used that same logic to just take out Drew, because Drew would not have been part of the jury at all. And you fracture Reba, because then you can expose to Sifu what was going on and confirming his beliefs that he was actually on the bottom of that group. And now you have Sifu coming in to be loyal to you. Maybe not to all of Bello, but loyal to you. And then the game is completely shifting into a different direction, because Bello was still fractured, but Reba wouldn't have been so dominant.
Yeah. I know another thing that was said in Kendra's exit press, which, I take it as a grain of salt because it's obviously their opinion on the game, how they saw it through their eyes, was that she said she protected Drew in that vote, which if she did, I have more questions about Kendra, because why would you protect Drew when
he went against
just went against you?
It's a hard one there because like I think she like the way she viewed it was
I guess they at least spent time together.
They spent time together. They liked each other. And I think she didn't have as much of issue of people going. She had more of an issue with Emily not voting with them because she expected Reba ultimately to vote for either her or Brando. She didn't expect Emily to. And we had those confessionals of Drew and Kendra, or specifically from Drew's perspective, being like, no, like I vibe with Kendra. We're opposites, but like I enjoy getting to know her as a person. So I think that sort of like was led there to that. So I can buy
that. Makes sense. Okay, no, that makes sense.
But still, like I think if Kendra was able to like strictly think like a Drew would have told you himself that the move would have been to vote him out.
Yeah, 100%.
If he was like in her shoes. So whatever, it is what it is. Moving back into this game to help tidy up this episode, Bruce like goes to Jake and sort of like confides in him like, I did lie, I do have an idol. And this is where like Jake sort of has a little bit of like a mental breakdown of like, I just think I've been absolute shit in this game. Like I can't do anything right. Nobody wants to play with me. I'm consistently on the bottom. I just don't know who to trust. Like I don't have anybody. I don't have this path forward. And you do have Bruce go to him and sort of be like, you know what this is? Like, you hit your survivor wall. And, like, I hit it a little bit earlier in this game. But, like, it's impressive. Like, don't look down on yourself. Like, whatever that happens this game may not be going how you wanted it to have gone and how you pictured it would go for you. But, like, your out of life is still your out of life. Like, you're still a smart dude. You passed the bar. You're going to be a lawyer. Like, you're going to be okay outside of this game. Like, don't let some things knocking you down in this game, like, completely deteriorate who you are. And I was like, you know what? This was a good Bruce moment. And, like, this is where I feel like Bruce being, like, dad Bruce, like, pays off. Like, it doesn't pay off in the vote, but I mean, like, just how interactions go at camp. Like,
good moment.
This is what you want. Pick someone up while they're down.
The last good moment he has all season, unfortunately.
It is the last good moment he has all season because we get the tribal. The jury's looking to see who has the. I like that we're getting the jury whispers. It reminds me of Survivor South Africa.
Okay.
Rest in peace. Where we would hear their insight through their whispers as tribal is going on. Like I love when the vote's happening and everyone's like, "Oh my god, Jake's gonna go," and Caleb's like, "Y'all, we know how this goes. He's fine."
Yeah, it's never the first person.
Yeah. But we get a lot of what we talked about throughout this podcast. Like Julie is talking about like how the being the mama is helpful, but it's also detrimental because of these things, like having to vote people out who are confiding in you and putting their full trust in you, and you have to lie.
As
like,
Kendra glares at her.
Yeah, but she wouldn't know. She can't even look that way. As Drew smirks and looks over at them. Which I think is also a problem. Like you, by actively saying like, oh, I can't even look at them. Like if I'm on that jury, it makes it come across as cowardly.
100%.
And is that someone that I am willing to vote for? Which again, Katura and Emily, I'm hoping that like is ringing alarm bells in your ears. Are like, hey, okay, maybe she doesn't have as great chances as we thought.
Yeah, this
and I'd
woman
say all
is not
this
winning
and
this
watch
game.
Julie's the next boot.
It could. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time where it was someone being like, I have, I'm going to go rogue. I'm going to play the middle on the next time. And they go.
Truly, it's what I believe. I truly believe it's Julie going out next. If it's one of Reba, it's going to be her.
Because I think she's the least likely to have an idol played for him. You look at it that way. Austin has the 2, and I think while he did give her one to hold when they split up into 3s, I think if Austin is holding both of them, he's likely to play it for Drew. I think he's likely to play it for D. I think he could be reluctant to play it for Julie, especially at 7.
I was going to say at this point in the game, I think he'd be more reluctant. I think you would think he would play for Drew because like they agreed early on final 2, but like he's at least island in love with D.
Yeah. I guess it's TBD if it's more than that. Who knows?
We do not know. We do not know. But what we do know is that everybody knows about Bruce's idol. And it's a matter of, is he going to play it or not? And ultimately, we don't see it played. He fell for Emily's trap. He goes out in a 4-3-1 vote with an idol in his pocket after saying in the episode, I don't want to be one of those people who leaves with an idol in their pocket. Bruce, this is the journey I think a lot of us sort of projected for him in terms of placement. Like, makes the merge, but goes out mid-jury. Maybe not with an idol in his pocket, but like something that like he gets close to the finale episode, but not all the way there. I'm glad that he got to have a true experience this go around, at least. And it seems like he's taking it in stride. You know, Bruce is a happy dude outside of this game. So I'm glad that he got to have his second chance. I was glad that he was a part of this season.
I enjoyed him this season, and it's not like I wasn't rooting for him. I wasn't rooting against him. Just as the more that he pissed people off and drove people crazy, I was rooting for every one of his immunity wins just because I knew it would cause a little bit of chaos. So did he intentionally cause chaos, in a strategic good way? No, but him being there and doing Bruce stuff did. So I was all for it.
Yeah, and 8th place isn't bad.
Not at all.
For like your official first time. And it's better than the 8 hours that he had his first go around. So I'm glad he got to have the experience. He seems to be taking it all in stride, especially the haters. I've been loving him on social media, just like responding to all the hate tweets and just going,
He at least has a really good attitude about it. So that's nice to see.
So,
and I mean, he even says it on his way out that he's not going to stop smiling. So,
and I never want him to.
Absolutely
I never want him to stop smiling. Don't be like Shawn Michaels. This is specifically for Jonny Fairplay. Don't be Shawn Michaels and lose your smile. Keep that smile. Cheers to drunk Uncle Bruce. Have fun in jury. Have fun in Ponderosa. That's where the real drunk Uncle Bruce can come out. And
Kelly might.
It'll be interesting to see what happens if Reba truly breaks up, like we're seeing in the episode. We want to make big moves, but I'm like so certain that Jake's gonna say, "I want to make big moves," or I mean, not Drew's gonna say, "I want to make big moves." Jake's gotta go. He has a story. Did you see that, jury? They were eating up his words when he was talking about how low on the totem pole he was. He has to go out.
He's the Godfather.
He's the Godfather. He's the mob boss. But that wraps up this episode. Episode 10. This is still best season of the post-COVID era at this point.
Agreed.
Whether it's the best gameplay, no, but with the 90 minutes, like I'm still having fun watching the episodes. We get more out of these people. I can't like truly complain about the season, which is nice. I know others can. I choose not to, but it's been a more fun experience podcasting about the season, and it's always a pleasure podcasting with you, Dan. So Dan, do you want to tell the viewers how they can support us, what other stuff we have going on?
Absolutely. So the best way to support the podcast is become a patron at realitypatron.com. That gets you access to our secret Facebook group, gets you access to Matt and Johnny. They're doing Australian Survivor coverage. They're getting towards the pointy end of the game in Brain versus Brawn, as well as the Q&A, which is a great time because you get to hear all of Johnny's stories about House of Villains that he can't tell. Join us for a month. If you don't like it, let us know. Johnny will refund your money. No harm, no foul. Try it for a month. See how it goes. If you're watching this live on YouTube or any other time, please make sure to like and subscribe to our page. Ring the bell. Make sure you get notifications whenever we go live. And if you're listening on Spotify, which is, everyone's favorite right now because you get that Spotify wrap up, or Apple Podcasts, wherever, please, if you have 30 seconds, we would very much appreciate if you rate and review us 5 stars. Just say something nice or say anything at all. Just please rate and review us. It greatly helps us out, and we'd appreciate that. I know later in the week, I'm sure at some point Johnny will be back with a House of Villains new podcast, as well as the Roundtable. And then last week, unfortunately, I was the reason why we did not have a challenge podcast. I apologize. I was not feeling well. But at some point, Friday, Sunday, one of the two, Alex and I will be back. We'll be recapping the Challenge 39, Battle for a New Champion, episode, 6 and 7, last week's and the episode tonight.
Yeah, and get your wet, unlit, broken cigarettes out. It's going to be a good one. At least the second half, hopefully. I will tell you, the first half of that podcast will be brief.
I have
not
thoughts.
A good episode.
Not good ones, but I have thoughts. But yes,
hey,
I am excited.
They're all good thoughts on this podcast.
Well, I meant not good thoughts about most of the cast, but I think they're at least going to be entertaining. But yeah, no, let's bring Devin out. Let's hear him ask some people what 7 times 9, and let's go. But I think that's going to wrap it up for us. We appreciate you all, and Matt will be back with us next week as we continue more coverage of Survivor Season 45. Thanks, and have a good night, everyone.
See ya.